how many social media business owners or business owners that are interested in growing their social media traffic care to read about productivity? They care to read about social media marketing tips, right? It's more relevant.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guide, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Hey, it's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guide. It's time for episode 96 of the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, where you'll discover how to get more sales in life. That's pretty much it. Basically, how to make money every time you send an email to your list, how to convert more of those people, how to activate that database, all of the above, and have a great time doing it, and really automate the whole thing so you can chill out, go to the beach, and catch some waves or climb a mountain or do whatever you like to do. Today, I'll be talking to Neil Patel. Now, funnily enough, Neil's a content marketing guy, and interestingly, I used to say, and it's still on my website on the email opt-in form, it says why content marketing is bullshit. Okay, and in many ways, I still believe that because the way content marketing is done by most people, it just doesn't work. People think, I'm going to set up a blog, I'm going to write some blog posts, and I'm going to get rich. That's really the formula that a lot of people say. I mean, it's a little bit more complex than that, or maybe there's a bit more good argument behind it, but that's the gist of it. Now, some people out there are doing blogging properly. They're content marketing properly. They're putting out the right kinds of content to get the right kinds of people that are going to buy their stuff. But a lot of people aren't. They just think, well, I'll just write lots of articles on my subject matter, and that's going to work. But that's not how it works. And that's why I got Neil Patel on the show, because I wanted him to spill the beans on content marketing, why it works, and what you have to do to make sure it works properly. Well, what stuff that, mistakes to avoid, and how to do it properly. Because once you learn a bit about it, it's actually not that hard. Just got to correct some of those starter mistakes. So Neil Patel's a massive guy in this field. He's got a couple big companies. Crazy Egg is one, and Kissmetrics as well, I think is his also. So that's Neil Patel for you, and we'll get into that in just a minute. To get the show notes for this episode of the Email Marketing Podcast, go to themcmethod.com/96. Now, I've got an interesting McMasters Insight of the Week for you this week. It's got nothing to do with email marketing, nothing to do with marketing, nothing even to do with sale, not even anything to do with the computer. Because here's the thing, I think we all spend too much time on the computer. I know I do. Sometimes I'll spend all day on the computer, and then at the end of the day, I can't sleep. So, today's Insight of the Week is to eat healthy. Pretty boring, right? It's not as exciting as saying here's how to 10x your sales, and here's how to double your conversion rates and all that sort of stuff. But look, life's pretty simple. When it comes to getting healthy, people think that you've got to do all sorts of, you got to get on the right diet, you got to get the right exercise plan, and it's really complex, and you got to plan it out and count your calories and all this stuff, right? And it's really not that complex. When I talk to people about this, it's basically eat more good food, eat less bad food, get some exercise. That's it. And you will be blown away when you get in the habit of eating right and getting a bit of exercise, and also sleeping. Sleeping is another thing, but I would think about that as part of your diet. Got to eat some sleep. When you do this right, you will be amazed at how much energy you have, how much vitality you have, and how much more optimistic you are about life. And this is going to make you better at business. This is going to make you able to write more emails if you're writing them yourself. Or you're just going to make better decisions when it comes to hiring other people to doing this stuff for you. And I know this is the sort of thing that people say, well, I know I need to be healthy. Tell me something I don't know. Tell me something exciting. But this is stuff that you got to do. This is common sense. It's fundamental, and it's really easy to understand. But how many of us actually do it? How many of us actually take the time to be healthy, to cook the right food, to go to the gym, to do all these things? But this is like 80% of the game. If you can be healthy and strong and well slept, it's going to make everything else in your life better. Okay? That's this week's Insight of the Week. Now, McMasters, if you want to learn more about that, it's a private membership community that I have, a VIP training community, if you will. And inside the community, you'll get access to a bunch of training products that on how to write emails, how to write stories, how to write a sick landing page that's going to get you a ton of sales, all these different things like that. It's pretty simple, and there's also a private training forum and some webinars, so you can get in there, you can engage with me and the other members, and solve your sales and marketing problems with email. So that's that. If you want to learn more about that, go to themcmethod.com, and in the top menu bar, there is a link to members. Click that. Last but not least, please, if you have just 30 seconds, jump over to iTunes and leave me a review. Doesn't have to be 5 stars, though I will appreciate it if it is. But just if you have a second and you have enjoyed this show and you have been getting a lot out of this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you jumped over there, leave the review. I'll read it out on the show, and I'll buy you a beer or a coffee or even a bunch of flowers, if you prefer, when we meet one day, because I'm sure that's enough of that. Anyway, let's get into this interview with Mr. Neil Patel. It's John McIntyre here. I'm here with Neil Patel. Now, Neil is the co-founder of Crazy Egg, Hello Bar, Kiss, and Kiss Metrics. And he helps companies like Amazon, NBC, GM, HP, and Viacom grow their revenue. Now, the Wall Street Journal calls him a top influencer on the web. Forbes says he's one of the top 10 online marketers, and Entrepreneur Magazine says he created one of the 100 most brilliant companies in the world. Now, when I think of Neil Patel, because I know a lot of people in this the online marketing world. When I think of Neil, I think of traffic, and it's all the stuff that he puts out. From what I can see, is very much about traffic and how to get more people to your site, and not just people, but people with credit cards, people with money in their wallets that they're ready to spend and ready to buy stuff. So what I wanted to do is to get Neil to come onto the show, the Email Marketing Podcast, and to talk about not about email, but about some of the traffic generation stuff that's working these days. So that's what we're gonna chat about today. Neil, how you going, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Before we get into some of the traffic stuff, can you give the listener maybe a bit more of a background on who you are and what you're up to?
Sure. I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I've started a few software companies, Crazy Egg, Kiss Metrics. They're analytics companies that help people either get more conversions or understand how people behave on their website. I'm also a marketer by heart. And what I do is I teach people or companies how to get more visitors to their site and how to convert those visitors into customers.
Easy. That was very good. Well, let's talk about that then first. So you're teaching companies how to get more visitors to their site that are going to buy stuff. Do you do it primarily with content marketing, or are you doing all like paid traffic and content? You do it the whole thing.
I do the whole thing. So I do paid content, content marketing, social media, etc. So the whole gamut.
Okay. So what I'm curious about is there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and they've got a website, they're marketers. Some of them are doing a bit of paid traffic, and we've talked about paid traffic before. I'm curious to find out what you think. What's sort of working right now, because like I've spoken to a number of people. I've been running my own stuff, and advertising and marketing. In some ways, the fundamentals, obviously the fundamentals are never going away, but at the same time, it's changing very rapidly as as more and more people come online and more people start going on AdWords. So it's starting to, the approach that's working seems to be changing, so that everyone's going to take a different approach now. So what are you seeing? So
the big thing that I'm seeing right now that's working in marketing is content marketing, in which people who are writing exceptionally good content. Now, I'm not just talking about your average blog post that breaks down the news or something that's happening or some general tips, but people who are giving like specialized data or sharing something unique that others aren't. They're not only getting a ton of traffic, backlinks, they're generating comments, they're generating loyalty from potential readers, and eventually a few small percentage of those readers, whether it's 1%, 2-3%, are like, hey, what's this company that's creating great content? Their content's this good. Maybe their product or service is good, and we should check that out as well. And that's actually what's causing them to generate sales.
Because one thing, like when I first heard about content marketing a couple of years ago, I noticed that there's a lot of people there's this mindset around content marketing that if I just write a whole bunch of blog posts that are decent, then I'm going to start making my whole business is going to explode and it's going to be wonderland. But what I've noticed is that it's content marketing works, but it takes a little bit more finesse than just post some good articles. Sort of like you have to understand where exactly your prospect sits and say like a levels of awareness chart, and then start creating content that's going to, like strategic content that's going to move them from where they're at right now to the next step, which is when they're ready to buy.
That's correct, right? So you can do strategic content. You can actually do content throughout your funnel. When someone signs up for a product or service and they're in a trial phase, you can actually create content that actually helps them better understand how to use things, your product, service, or get better results, and that actually encourages people to spend more money with you as well.
Okay. So when we talk about content marketing, how do you when someone asks you how to to explain how to actually do it? Obviously you sit down and you write something and create some content. This podcast would be an example of content marketing, but how do you go about it when you think about, all right, we're going to create some content and we're going to get some traffic? Do you just create an article for someone and put it on the website? or do you go through a process? Obviously you do, but if you go through a process where you obviously create the article, put it on the site, there's probably some marketing that goes into it.
Yeah, so there's a big process. It's never just like throwing content on the site, right? And you're specifically looking for the process that's being used. Are you wondering what the specific process is that I'm using?
Yeah.
Okay, so to clarify, what ends up happening is and let's go from the beginning of the content marketing process to the end. End is getting traffic and conversions.
Okay.
So at the beginning, what we try to do is, if you want to do successful content marketing, is one, you need to find out what readers and potential customers want to learn about. Even if it's not related to your product, it's okay, as long as it's around the same industry or sector. Helping them solve problems within your space eventually does cause signups, at least from what we've seen as well as other companies as well. So you can find out what problems they're facing by A, surveying them. You can use Qualaroo or SurveyMonkey, email out people or just call people, or when they're on your websites, you can ask them quick questions through Qualaroo, like what else do you want to learn about, or what problems can we help you solve, etc. Once you do that, then what you need to do is outline the post. So enough people are saying, hey, I have this problem. The problem is I can't get enough traffic to my website. Can you help us, teach us about that? So you may say, all right, a lot of people say to that problem. Well, one new approach that they should be looking at is content marketing. So I would actually outline a post on content marketing and how companies can leverage it. You make the, framework of the post pretty detailed and thorough. Then you start writing it. Once you write it, you publish it, assuming it's proofread, there's no errors, etc. Then from there, what you end up doing is anyone who you linked out to within the post, you email them saying, hey, just linked to you, just want to let you know, feel free to share it to your audience, etc. In addition to that, what you want to do is email out to any potential Twitter users or website owners that may have an audience that's relevant to your article. Let them know as well. They'll usually share it, like it on Facebook, whatever it may be. And lastly, what you want to do is see who links to competing articles that are somewhat competitive. Email those website owners talking about how you see that they're linking to someone else's article and how your article provides a different perspective, and they should also consider adding a link to it. And then from there, what you'll notice is they'll get traffic, and maybe some of those people convert into customers. Maybe none of them do. Maybe the article doesn't do as well. And once you're done with it, you can look at the analytics and determine, all right, these type of posts do well, these ones don't. I should write less on this kind of stuff, and I should write more on this other kind of topics.
I like it. And another thing about content marketing is it seems to be, to me anyway, like a fairly slow process where you don't put up an article and then boom, you've got a whole bunch of traffic. Maybe you get lucky and there's one article that happens with. But usually what seems to happen is you start with nothing, and obviously you start gradually adding more and more and more articles. And over time, each article brings in probably a small amount of traffic, and there's probably some sort of 80-20 split in terms of a small amount of articles bring in the majority of the traffic. But it seems to build up. If you build up a site with tons of blog posts and podcasts and pieces of content, over time, over a year or 2 years, that's when it really starts to kick in. What are you seeing in terms of the speed in which someone can grow their site, grow their traffic with content marketing?
It's usually taking 6 months to a year, and content marketing within that period typically starts equating to the majority of their traffic.
Okay. And I'm wondering, because I remember when I first got in the online stuff, when it came to writing blog posts and articles, it was very keyword influenced. So you'd jump into Google keyword tool, you'd search for some keywords relevant in the niche, and then go and create an article for each keyword. And that worked to some. Well, obviously it did work, but it ended up being that the articles would sometimes come across as a bit dry or a bit almost too not very inspired, because you're just writing for a keyword. Whereas I'm not sure how much you bring that in, but I find when I just take an article that it's a topic that people keep asking me about, and then I write that, it's got nothing to do with keywords, but the article's got, it's inspired, there's probably a bit of passion in there, and it's tapping into that need that people have. Usually that gets more traffic than going down the keyword-focused route. So how much do you bring in keywords? How much do you try and game it versus trying to just, do an inspired article?
I actually don't use keywords one bit within my with blog posts or content marketing. Wow. Naturally, I use keywords, but what I mean by that is I don't do any research or figure out, hey, I'm going to pinpoint these keywords, or say the word content marketing 10 times in my blog post, assuming I'm writing on content marketing. Instead, I just try to write the best piece of content for the person reading it. Because if I do that, eventually the search engines will change their algorithms in the long run, and they're already working on it, in which the best content, what's most valuable to the user, is what should be at the top. And they really are trying to do that. They've been getting way better at that over the years. In addition to that, people like, this is great. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to pay these guys, etc. So it's just all about writing great information.
I like it. What about some of the mistakes that people? Because in these kind of situations, people tend to get into a lot of trouble at some point. There's a lot of challenges that people face here. I think one big one is that a lot of people have writer's block. They sit down, they try and write something, and it's just pretty difficult to write. They stare at the cursor and they write a few lines, and then it's like, oh, that doesn't sound any good, so they go back. I mean, that'd be one challenge. But what are some of the challenges or the mistakes that people have, what they make? And how do you suggest that they overcome them?
So the big mistakes people are making within content marketing is they're focusing on writing content that generates the most traffic versus writing the information that's most relevant to your ideal customer. It's not a quantity game, it's a quality game. You can get 1 million visitors a month, but if no one really likes the content, they're not going to convert. A good example of this is I was talking with Leo from Buffer, bufferapp.com, great product. And their blog is extremely popular. And I was like, hey, you're not going to get too many conversions. He's like, why? I'm like, you talk too much about productivity. You're a social sharing tool, and you're trying to get businesses to pay for your social media product. Do you think they care to read about productivity? Now, productivity brings in way more traffic than social media marketing topics. But the conversions aren't going to be there. And he's just like, yeah, you're right. We're not really seeing any...
Yeah, it dropped down and went fuzzy for a second. You were just starting to talk about the Buffer app. He'd just been like, we're not actually seeing many conversions.
That's correct, because they were writing about productivity. How many social media business owners or business owners that are interested in growing their social media traffic care to read about productivity? They care to read about social media marketing tips, right? It's more relevant. Productivity is way more popular. And yeah, it was generating them a lot of traffic, but little to no conversions. So as they started shifting their strategy, they started seeing more signups, and it's been working for them.
Wow, yeah, I've actually noticed that when I've seen, Buffer's been around for a little while now, their articles would pop up, and I've used the app once or twice in the past, but they'd come out with these articles that, like on meditation, of all things, that has almost nothing to do with sharing my content on a social media site. So, it was quite funny.
Nothing one bit. It doesn't matter one bit, right? I don't care don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against meditation, but reading against meditation is not going to convince me to sign up for your social media marketing product. And they know that. They're smart. So they are shifting strategies, and they have been, and it's been working out well.
Yeah. What's funny, though, is the articles for them, they were high-quality articles. So even if they weren't relevant, they were, like when I think of Buffer and the articles that they were putting out, they might not have been relevant at the time, but they were pretty high quality.
Yeah, they have exceptionally good writers. And it just goes back to showing that just writing good information and good content isn't enough. It's not relevant. It's not going to convert. You can't go after quantity. You got to go after quality.
Right. I think that's one thing that I've mentioned to people that come to me. So I have a site about email marketing. People sign up for daily email tips, and one of the bullets in the sign up form actually says, what does it say exactly? It says something like why content marketing is bullshit. And the reason why I wrote, there was a while ago when I wrote that, but it was because of this issue where people come in and they think, content marketing, this has been around for a while, and it gets a lot of people rave about and talk about how content marketing is this massive thing that's going to totally change their business. But if it's not relevant, if it's not content that's going to appeal to that target customer, then it's not going to work.
Totally. And you got it right. And I think a lot of companies still have to learn that. They all conceptually understand that, when it comes to practicing it, they're not doing it.
I think because when I speak to people, one thing that I go on and on and on about is empathy and taking the time to understand your prospect and your customer and who you're really trying to connect with, and then creating not just content but creating everything being influenced by the core idea of what person you're trying to attract. But it's amazing how many people hear that. And I do this myself. I've done this myself, where it's easy to hear that and go, wow, that's a great idea, and then go do the opposite thing, where you should be surveying people and getting on the phone with them and talking to them and finding out what they want to hear about. But instead, it's probably easier to just sit down and write a blog post, or even just go pay someone else to write a blog post without doing the research.
Yeah, and it's like when you do it without doing the whole process, like the research, etc., who your audience is, what to provide to them, what do they want to read, etc. Like, you can end up spending tons of time and money on content marketing and it won't convert, right? It's like any other form of marketing. If you don't do it right, doesn't mean it's going to be effective. Just throwing money at something doesn't solve it.
One thing I'm curious about, because people get in this internet thing when they think, it's going to be at least at the beginning, that, I can go do paid traffic, but then I've got to pay $1, $3, $5, $10, whatever, per click on Facebook or AdWords, and that's really expensive. So I'm going to go and do some content marketing because it's free. Let's say that stage in the bootstrapping stage. So that they're going to write the articles themselves, and they're going to put them together, and it's like, oh, it's free articles, free traffic. And one thing is it's not, because they might not be paying money to write the articles or put them on the site or get the traffic, but they're paying in their time, and their time it might be more valuable. So, I mean, what do you think in terms of like what's more expensive when it comes to getting traffic? Is going down the paid traffic route more expensive, or doing the content marketing from when you add up like the time, the money, the resources that go into it?
Yeah, the way I look at it is all forms of marketing are expensive. Whether you're paying with time or money, one way or another you're going to pay. So you just got to figure out which produces the highest ROI. You got to value what your time is worth and go from there.
But how do you, like, if you're doing content marketing, how do you track the ROI on that when it's going to take you, say, 6 to 12 months on average to for the traffic to kick in with the articles you've been putting out?
Well, what you want to do is you want to test the waters. So as you're doing it, you would want to see, all right, am I getting relevant comments from people who could be potential customers? Am I getting relevant traffic? All of these things help determine if you can potentially convert those visitors into customers later on. It's kind of like a leap of faith. Because you're only at 10,000 visitors a month, you can't end up converting or making much money from it. So you do got to take some sort of a leap of faith.
Right. So it's a little bit less precise. I was going to say, so it's a little bit less in terms of tracking. It's a little bit like it's less precise than, say, because go and do paid traffic, spend $1,000, get 1,000 visitors, and you're going to know very quickly if that ad campaign works. Whereas with content marketing, you're saying you're testing the waters, you're seeing what happens, and after a set amount of time, it's all right. Well, we've had 10,000 visitors, and it looks like it doesn't really work. Can't be 100% sure, but you've got to, I guess, call it.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's why this is also why paid advertising is way more popular, because it's easier to see, all right, there's a direct ROI or there's not one.
Okay. And how important is the quality? Like when it comes to writing an article, like, some sites go all out with the way it's put, the flow, the design, the images, and just everything looks amazing. And then other sites, it's super basic. Like Steve Pavlina, I don't know if you know him, the personal development blogger. His site's like notoriously boring in terms of the design and the way it's put together. It's from a design perspective, it's pretty average. Yet he's probably one of the biggest personal development bloggers on the internet, and gets a huge amount of traffic. And so as far as like the quality, I mean the article, the written quality is quite high, but other than that, it doesn't look it doesn't look like anything special. Whereas other sites go all out with the design and stuff. So how important is that sort of quality?
I think having a good design is important, but not that important. It doesn't affect your traffic. I've seen the same thing when my blog first started. I had an ugly design, and it got good traffic. A blog is a blog. People go there for the content, not the design. Having a better design does help you get more traffic. It's not the biggest requirement. I recommend doing a minimal version, something that's like ghetto, like not fancy, etc. Throwing it out there as a blog actually gets more traction than invest dollars into it.
I like it. And I got one last thing. I'm curious to know, because I've done podcasts, I do interviews too, and sometimes people come up with this question. I love this question, but it's what do you wish you were asked about, say, content marketing or traffic, or even maybe just marketing in general? There's probably going to be stuff that you don't get asked about very often, because it's the standard questions about content marketing, sort of what we've been talking about today. But what's something that you don't get asked very often that's really important, that maybe you wish that you got asked more often?
So one thing is, no one really talks about these days how to convert visitors into customers. And I think that's important because if you look at marketing trends, it's becoming more and more expensive. Not just from the aspect that paid advertising is increasing like cost per click over time because it's more competitive, but even content marketing is increasing in cost. Why? Because you're putting in time, and eventually you even hire someone to manage the blog, and these content marketers aren't cheap, right? They're going up in price quarter over quarter. So it's like I feel so many companies are focusing on getting traffic to their site versus just converting what they have into customers.
Right. Okay. So put some resources into doing the content marketing or doing the traffic, but also invest in the conversions. That's
correct. And there's no one trick to improving conversions. It just comes down to solving objections, right? Think of it this way. Go to a website, you don't buy. There's a reason you don't buy. Maybe you didn't care to buy right now. Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe the price is too high. Maybe you don't trust the site you're on. Whatever the reasons are, they're all considered objections. So what you have to do is you have to find out what are the common objections, which you can usually get from qualaroo.com. It's just through a survey on your site. And as you start noticing similar patterns and multiple people have the same objection, because you can ask them a question like, why didn't you buy from us, right? And you'll get enough responses. Or you could ask, what could we have done to convince you to complete the purchase? And their technology will figure out, Paul Rue's technology will figure out when to show people the question, right? Once you get the responses, then you can say, okay, everyone is complaining that they don't trust our site to put their credit card in. Well, then maybe getting a BBB seal and a HackerSafe or McAfee virus secure seal or whatever it may give people more trust. And that could help boost your conversion rates, right? But you won't know unless you get these objections and then you A/B test if your solution actually helps or not.
Right. I like it. So it goes back to this. People have got to find out basically find out what's going through your prospect's head, your visitor's head when they're on the site. So it goes back to that empathy and really understanding who they are and what they want, what they don't want, and then tailoring the site to them.
Yes, just like sales. If you go into a sales meeting, you're trying to close a deal, you're trying to figure out the psychology behind the person that you're selling to and what they're thinking. And if you can figure that out, you're more likely to close the deal.
Absolutely. It's funny how simple this stuff gets when you really get down to it. You don't need like tons of, you don't need to read a whole bunch of books or courses or anything like that to do this stuff. It comes back to some very simple ideas.
Yep, exactly.
Before we, I'm about to wrap it up here, but before we go, if people want to learn more about you, kind of learn more about Neil Patel and find out what you're up to, where's the best place for them to do that?
They can either go to quicksprout.com or neilpatel.com.
Okay. And is there I know you have a training course or a product on traffic or content marketing. That's on QuickSprout?
That's on QuickSprout, yes.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on the show, Neil. What I'll do is I'll have the links to your websites in the show notes at themethod.com. So if the listener didn't hear them, they can go to themethod.com, get those links, and go check that out. Thanks again for coming on the show, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.